And imagine this. You've spent years tuning into your body, listening more closely than you ever did in your 30s or 40s. Maybe you've traded the heavy meals for something lighter in the evenings. Maybe you've stopped drinking soda. Maybe you've even swapped the evening dessert for something wholesome. A cold bowl of fresh fruit, glistening in the light. Grapefruit wedges, sharp and tart, sitting there like a promise that you're doing something good for yourself. You feel proud of that choice. Responsible. Even a little hopeful. But what if I told you that very bowl, that good choice, might be quietly working against you? Not today, not tomorrow, but slowly, subtly, like a drip on stone, weakening the balance inside your body until something gives. I've been a brain doctor for over 30 years, and I can count on one hand the number of times a food has truly surprised me. I'm not talking about those clickbait articles or celebrity diets. I mean genuine medical surprises, where something we assumed was healthy turns out, in the right context, to be dangerous. This was one of those times. It began with a man named Jack. Jack was 67th, former high school principal, broad-shouldered, straight-talking, the kind of man who coached soccer on weekends and built his own deck just to stay busy. He came to me after what seemed like a minor stroke, a sudden moment of confusion one morning, then a lingering fuzziness that just wouldn't lift. His scans showed a small clot in the brain. A minor one, yes, but one that shouldn't have been there, not with the life Jack lived. His blood pressure was under control. He walked every morning, rain or shine, no diabetes, no smoking, and he hadn't missed a medication in over a decade. But as we talked more, something stuck with me. He said offhandedly, "I've been eating better, Doc. Switched out my evening snack for something clean. Every night right before bed, I have a bowl of grapefruit. Keeps me regular." He laughed. "And my wife swears it helps her skin." That's when my stomach turned just slightly. That moment, that comment, led me down a path I didn't expect. You see, grapefruit on its own is not harmful. It's rich in vitamin C, packed with antioxidants. It's refreshing, hydrating, even protective in many ways. But here's what most people, even many doctors, forget. Grapefruit interferes with an enzyme in the gut and liver called CYP3A4. This enzyme is responsible for breaking down a wide range of medications that many people Jack's age take every day. Blood pressure meds, cholesterol-lowering statins, some heart rhythm drugs, even medications for anxiety or depression. When grapefruit blocks that enzyme, it's like closing the drain while the faucet's still running. Medication levels in the blood start to rise, not in a helpful way, but in a way that can push the body into dangerous territory. Blood pressure drops too low, heart rhythms become unstable, and sometimes the blood's ability to clot or not clot goes out of balance entirely. Jack, it turned out, had been on a calcium channel blocker. A common one, nothing exotic. But grapefruit was interfering with how his body processed it. The drug that was supposed to help regulate his blood pressure had been building up in his bloodstream every night. And that subtle shift, repeated nightly, unknowingly, may have been just enough to trigger that small clot, that one moment of confusion, that tiny lesion in his brain that changed his confidence forever. There's another patient who comes to mind when I think about the quiet, invisible ways our bodies signal distress long before disaster strikes. His name was Robert, a man in his early 70s, a retired engineer with a calm demeanor and a gentle sense of humor that could light up a room. Robert had always been conscientious about his health. He exercised regularly, followed his diet, and never missed his medications. But over time, he started experiencing something subtle and unsettling. A kind of persistent fatigue that sleep didn't seem to fix. Occasional dizziness when standing up and moments where his heart felt like it was skipping beats or fluttering unexpectedly. Robert was frustrated. These symptoms were easy to dismiss, just the normal wear and tear of age, he thought. Yet, beneath that surface, his body was sending him urgent messages. When he came in, his blood pressure readings were erratic, sometimes low, sometimes creeping higher. His heart rhythm, recorded on a monitor, revealed episodes of irregularity known as arrhythmias. The medications meant to keep his heart steady were acting unpredictably. And when I asked about his diet, he mentioned his nightly ritual of grapefruit juice, believing it was helping with his cholesterol. What Robert was experiencing is an example of how the interaction between grapefruit and medications doesn't always manifest as a sudden crisis. Sometimes it's a slow unraveling, a gradual tipping of the scales that weakens the body's defenses. The enzyme CYP3A4, which grapefruit inhibits, normally acts like a vigilant gatekeeper, regulating how much medication enters the bloodstream. When this gatekeeper is blocked, the levels of medication can rise unpredictably, leading to side effects that might seem unrelated at first glance: dizziness, fatigue, palpitations. Biologically, this process reveals just how delicately balanced our systems are, especially as we age. The cardiovascular system is not just a pump, it's a network of feedback loops, sensors, and adaptive responses that keep us upright and alert. When medication levels surge beyond what the body expects, it disrupts this harmony. Blood vessels may dilate or constrict too much, heart rhythms become erratic, and the brain's supply of oxygen-rich blood can fluctuate. Over months or years, these changes stress the system, making the brain more vulnerable to injury and decline. What's crucial to understand is that these symptoms, fatigue, dizziness, heart flutter, are the body's way of whispering for help before a crisis hits. Unfortunately, they're often overlooked or attributed to just getting older. Robert's story reminds us how important it is to listen closely, to pay attention to the small signs, and to connect them back to the choices we make about food and medication. Emotionally, this is a heavy burden for many older adults. To feel your strength slipping away, not in a dramatic collapse, but in these subtle ways, can erode confidence and foster quiet anxiety. Robert told me once, "I felt like my body was betraying me, like I couldn't trust myself anymore." That sense of vulnerability is real and deserves to be acknowledged. But Robert's journey also shows us the power of intervention grounded in knowledge and compassion. Once we identified the grapefruit interaction, he was able to switch to different fruits, adjust his medications carefully, and begin regaining stability. The dizziness faded, his heart rhythm steadied, and with time, his energy returned. It wasn't overnight. It was steady, patient progress. And it was rooted in a shared understanding, a partnership between patient and doctor, built on trust and careful listening. This story highlights the profound truth that health isn't just about isolated numbers or medications taken on schedule. It's about the whole person, their habits, their environment, their fears, and their hopes. Grapefruit is just one piece of a much larger puzzle, but it's a piece that, once understood, offers a remarkable opportunity to change course. In the quiet moments when we consider what it means to age well, we realize that true vitality comes not from avoiding every risk, but from learning how to navigate them wisely. Robert's experience is a testament to that kind of wisdom, the courage to notice, to ask questions, to seek answers, and to adapt with intention. It reminds us all that even in our later years, our bodies can surprise us, sometimes in challenging ways, but always with a capacity for resilience. As we move forward, keep in mind that these subtle signals are gifts. They are your body's way of guiding you toward greater care. And by honoring them, by paying attention to how food and medication interact, you take one of the most powerful steps toward protecting your brain and your life. What stunned me wasn't just the interaction, it was how little people knew. Jack was one of hundreds, maybe thousands, who were doing the right thing, eating clean, trusting their choices, and unknowingly stepping into a trap set not by negligence, but by a lack of information. Grapefruit isn't marketed with a warning label. Most pharmacists don't mention it unless prompted, and many doctors assume patients already know, but how could they? This isn't about blaming grapefruit. It's about understanding how fragile and how finely tuned the systems in our body become as we age. The brain especially does not like sudden shifts. Think of it like a violin. It needs the right tension, the right humidity, the right handling to play clearly. Throw it out of tune, and it doesn't take long before the music falters. What happens when the balance is thrown off by a seemingly healthy food? Let's look gently at what's going on inside the brain. When medications aren't processed properly, one of two things happens. Either they become ineffective, too weak to protect us, or they build up to toxic levels. In Jack's case, the medication became too potent. His blood pressure dropped too low, likely during sleep. Now imagine a brain that relies on consistent, stable blood flow. Oxygen delivery is moment to moment. Even small changes in pressure can stretch the blood vessel walls, especially in older brains where elasticity is reduced. Over time, those vessels can become fragile, prone to leaking or clotting. And when that happens, the result is often subtle at first. A foggy morning, a missed word, a slight drag in the foot. But sometimes, it's not subtle at all. I've seen patients collapse in the middle of their morning routine, their eyes wide with confusion, unsure of where they are. I've heard the tremor in a wife's voice as she says, "He was just shaving, and then he dropped the razor." And the truth is, strokes don't always begin with pain. Sometimes they begin with silence, a blank space, a breath held too long, a second that stretches unnaturally. This is why it matters. When we talk about stroke risk, people think of smoking, high cholesterol, sedentary living, all of which are important. But few think about the grapefruit sitting quietly in their fridge or the juice poured with breakfast. Few realize that a bowl of fruit taken with good intention can change how their body handles the very medications meant to protect them. It's not dramatic, it doesn't scream, but it changes the equation. And as we get older, those equations matter more. Our margins are smaller, our systems more delicate. But this isn't a message of fear. It's a message of attention, of honoring the fact that our bodies speak quietly, and that we must learn how to listen in the right way. That includes knowing how food and medicine speak to each other, and sometimes how they clash. There's a certain kind of grief that comes with realizing something you thought was helping you may be part of the problem. But there's also power in that realization, because once you know, you can change. Once you see the landscape clearly, you can walk it more safely. You don't have to throw out all your fruit, you don't have to fear food, but you do need to know what's in your system and how the pieces fit together. That's where we begin to reclaim not just our health, but our trust in our own decisions. Not based on trends or hype, but on real knowledge, on understanding, on a kind of deep respect for the chemistry of being human. And so I started talking to more patients, quietly, carefully. I asked about their diets, their evening routines, their habits around food and medication. And time after time, I heard variations of the same story. I take my pills with juice in the morning. I love grapefruit. It's part of my routine. I read it's good for weight loss. They weren't wrong, but they weren't fully informed. And that gap between good intention and unintended consequence is where most health crises hide. You'd be surprised how many common medications interact with grapefruit. Statins like simvastatin or atorvastatin, anti-arrhythmic drugs like amiodarone, certain blood thinners, even some antidepressants. The list is long, longer than most realize. And the effects aren't always immediate. Sometimes they build over weeks, months, years. So what can you do? Let's pause here. Because this is where the story shifts, where fear becomes clarity, where knowledge starts to become action. And that's where we'll go next, into the simple, practical steps that can protect not just your body, but your peace of mind. Now that we've uncovered the hidden dance between grapefruit and your medications, let's look closely at what you can do to protect yourself. Not through drastic change or fear, but through simple, mindful choices that honor your health and your wisdom. Because knowledge, as I've seen over decades, is most powerful when it becomes gentle action, not heavy burden. First, take a moment to look at your medicine cabinet or your daily pill organizer. You don't have to be a medical expert to ask one simple question. Does this medication interact with grapefruit? If you're taking blood pressure medication, statins, or drugs for heart rhythm, this question becomes essential. And it's not just about stopping the fruit. It's about knowing the conversation you need to have with your doctor or pharmacist, those trusted guides on your health journey who can help you navigate what's safe, what's risky, and how to make adjustments that fit your life. Don't wait for them to bring it up. Take the initiative. Your health depends on it. For many, This means swapping grapefruit or grapefruit juice for other fruits that nourish the body without complicating medication absorption. Blueberries, for instance. Small bursts of deep purple goodness, rich in antioxidants and gentle on your system. Apples, crisp and familiar, with fiber that supports digestion. Pears, soft and sweet, easy to digest and kind to your palate. These fruits not only satisfy your sweet tooth, but also support heart and brain health in ways that don't interfere with your medication. Choosing these alternatives can feel like a small shift, but over time, these small shifts add up, building a protective shield around your body's delicate systems. But the most important step isn't just what you eat, it's the conversation you have. Many patients tell me they feel overwhelmed when doctors use medical jargon or rush through appointments. I want you to know that your questions are valid. Your curiosity is a form of courage. Ask about your medications. Ask if your diet supports your prescriptions. Ask what warning signs to watch for. The best doctors and pharmacists don't mind these questions. In fact, they welcome them. Because when you're informed, you become a partner in your care, not just a recipient. And beyond medication and diet, remember the other quiet forces that shape brain health: movement, rest, stress management. The body is a whole system, and each part influences the others. Regular gentle exercise improves circulation, which supports brain function and vessel health. Good sleep restores the brain's ability to clear toxins and recalibrate. Stress, often invisible but powerful, tightens blood vessels and disrupts heart rhythms. Managing stress through deep breathing, mindfulness, or even a walk in the early morning light can be medicine in its own right. I've seen men in their 60s and 70s who, after making these thoughtful changes, regain a kind of steady confidence. Their mornings are clearer. Their steps are surer. Their conversations flow without that frustrating fog that once lingered. It's not magic. It's the cumulative effect of small, consistent choices. Now, let's reflect for a moment on the deeper meaning of this journey. Our bodies don't come with guarantees, but they do come with stories. Stories written in every heartbeat, every breath, every choice we make at the table. As we age, those stories become even more precious, not just because they represent the years we've lived, but because they contain the hope for all the years we have yet to live fully and well. It's natural to feel skeptical. The world of health advice is crowded with noise. There are quick fixes that promise miracles and products that demand attention. But the real work of health, especially brain health, is quieter. It's about paying attention, listening to your body's whispers before they become alarms. It's about peeling back layers of misinformation with the calm light of understanding. It's about reclaiming your power through choices that feel manageable, real, and true. When you think about that bowl of grapefruit you might have eaten each night, I want you to hold compassion for yourself. You were trying to do good. That's the heart of this story. That our efforts, even when imperfect, come from a place of care. And now that you know more, you can care even better for yourself. If you feel a flicker of hope or relief after hearing this, hold on to it. It's a sign of your resilience and your readiness to walk this path with intention. And if you know someone who might also be quietly eating grapefruit while taking medications, consider sharing this story with them, not to alarm, but to enlighten, to offer a chance for someone else to avoid a preventable risk. Because in this stage of life, the greatest gift we can offer each other is knowledge shared with kindness. I want you to imagine your brain as a garden. It's weathered storms, enjoyed sunshine, and grown wild in places. You're the gardener. You can prune the branches that no longer serve you and plant seeds for new growth. The choices you make each day, what you eat, how you move, what you let into your mind, are the water and the sunlight. By removing that one small hazard, the grapefruit medication clash, you're clearing space for your garden to thrive. This isn't about fear. It's about hope, about being steady, about knowing that every thoughtful step you take is an act of kindness toward the person you were yesterday and the person you want to be tomorrow. Thank you for trusting me with your time and attention. I'm Dr. Michael Hanks, and my hope is that this knowledge empowers you to live with clarity and confidence. Take the information here not as a final word, but as an invitation to keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep caring for the incredible brain that carries your story. If this message resonated with you, please consider sharing it with someone you care about. And if you have questions or experiences you want to share, leave a comment below. I read everyone because health isn't just about science, it's about connection, community, and the shared journey of growing older with dignity. Your brain, your body, your life, they deserve your full attention, your gentle care, and your wise choices. Let's walk this path together, one step at a time.